Hi, this is Burt.
Hi, Bert. This is Ryan. I'm the editor-in-chief over at FilmFad.com. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you.
So I wanted to start off asking you, how did you get into special effects? What was the allure behind it?
I fell into special effects. I was a college student and I just dropped out. I had another goal in mind, and they were telling me that they were hiring at Universal, so I snuck on the back lot at Universal, got on the bus, and got off in the shop areas and handed out my Rolodex cards, so that's all they had. And I got a call back in special effects 41 years ago, and I've been here ever since.
In your line of work, I know that special effects has kind of evolved quite a bit, going from practical to more computer-generated type stuff.
Right.
Um, how do you find the balance between that, and how did this advancement in technology affect your career?
Well, when it first started out, we weren't so sure. We thought maybe they would just do all effects CG, but that's not how it worked out. More things they could do in post production created more work for us in different venues, still mechanical, but in a different venue. They still need real things happening in real time, so they can expand on it in post and make it larger, bigger, faster. But you just kind of adapt with it. Every year they come up with uh, new programs for create new things. Uh, we don't have to. I got a snow job. We don't have to do the entire street. We only have to go as far as the actors go, and we can paint the rest in. So it changed how we do business. But the good news is we're still in business. They still want practical effects affecting the actors directly and the sets directly. So and then we do other things. We actually have some work increased where they want us to shoot plate shots, let's say an explosion or a bullet hit or a flood or whatever they want, so that they can take that and instead of starting from dead scratch in the digital world, they'll have a real element to work off of, and they can model from that, which speeds up their process quite a bit and makes it more real.
Uh, Now, let me ask between something like Deepwater Horizon, which you're kind of capturing the more of that real life true story aspect,
Mm-hmm.
versus a film, say like I'm just going through your list here, but say like We Bought a Zoo. Um,
Right.
is there a strong distinction between the amount of work and effort that would go into something that would be more, as I would think, more special effects intensive with Deepwater Horizon versus something like We Bought a Zoo?
Oh, absolutely. On Deepwater Horizon, not the first half of the movie, but the second half of the movie is all about how dangerous it is and how bad things can go. And so you want to show that in its truest light, how horrifying it was for those people. And it becomes part of the story. You go to a movie like We Bought a Zoo. A friend of mine was the producer on it, and he asked if I'd come out and do it because there was some rain scenes and a couple of practicals. And on that, the effects had very little to do with the movie. They were a backdrop to help tell the story as being up in front. And so it's different. It's smaller crew, less prep time, of course, and you kind of approach it the same way. You still want the best effect. Just because it's a smaller effect movie doesn't mean you want to do less quality. You just have fewer things to do in a smaller crew.
Now, when I saw this film, Deepwater Horizon, it seemed like there was just a perfect balance between CG and practical effects. And I know a lot of fans, when you reference something even like Star Wars, there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of I guess there was fan mutiny when it came to some of the prequels going more the route of CGI and taking advantage of
Right.
that versus using practical effects. And now it seems a lot of films are going back to that. Did you feel more pressure to kind of push for practicality when it came to adapting a real life story like Deepwater Horizon?
Well, I wanted to, but more importantly, the director, the producers, the studio, the visual effects people themselves, they all wanted as much practical as could be done to make it as real as possible. They already had a huge challenge on their hands. They didn't need to add to their list by me doing less. They highly encouraged the practical effects. And one of the proudest things I have on this movie is how well, starting with our job, how well the post-production tied into the practical. I think they did an almost seamless job, and I've been doing this for a very long time. I'm kind of tooting our own movie's horn here, but I think the best thing about the effects on this movie was that the effects never took you out of the movie. You never said, "Oh, look at that big thing," or "Oh, what model was that?" You just thought you were watching a live event happening, and you were never taken out of the story. So that's what I'm proudest of on this movie.
What were some challenges along the way? Even outside of Deepwater Horizon, what would you say some of your biggest challenges would be when kind of emulating a certain scene and trying to capture that aspect within special effects?
Well, in this particular movie, the biggest problem was scale. Everything was just so huge, and huge takes time, manpower, and money, and everything that's made has limitations, and so you try to do the best job you can within the time frame that you have, the finances you have, and the story you're trying to tell, and you want to do the best you can. I mean, our tank was over 3 million gallons of water. We used hundreds of thousands of gallons of propane, tens of thousands of gallons of mud. And you got to remember, when you're done with all that, what do you do with it? You have to dispose of it in an environmentally safe way. So all of those things had to come into consideration before you start. And so there were big challenges in just how to handle the scale of everything and how to keep everything environmentally safe for the actors, safe for the crew, and still come off with a film that was full of excitement and danger so that the public could see what these people went through and not just, brush it aside. Get them to understand how dangerous it was and how many heroes, self-made heroes came out of that particular event. Ordinary people doing extraordinary things.
Well, as I think this is probably a bit of a contradiction for the word practical effects, because sometimes the budget itself, as you were kind of citing an example, it's it's a little bit more costly, so it's not practical from a budget perspective. How do you kind of make the argument with an advancement in technology for CGI for use of practical effects in a situation like this?
Well, luckily before the movie, they always have the visual effects supervisor and the visual effects producer, one who deals with the various houses and that are going to be doing the work in post and what things cost. And then I know what things cost to do practically and how long they take to shoot. So my costs are actually time of shooting, which is very valuable and very expensive, and the cost of my effect. In other words, if my effect doesn't cost much money, but it takes 6 hours to shoot, all of a sudden my little effect is a very big effect financially. So then you look over to visual effects and say, can you do this and still make it look real and give the director and the actors more time to do their work of, telling the story. So it's always a give and take. And then you pick the best. Some of them are dictated to you. Some things have to be real because they're touching the actor and they're not going to look right otherwise. And some things have to be visual effects because they're not physically possible, to do. So some are automatic and the other ones are up for discussion.
Well, also, you've got a pretty long career in the industry. I know this is a little bit unrelated but as far as context goes, this kind of falls right in. There was a documentary with that Keanu Reeves did with James Cameron and Christopher Nolan called Side by Side, where they were making the argument for both the digital age versus the versus using a standard reel film as well.
Right.
Now, I'm going to throw that same kind of argument at you as you being a very experienced person. What is your preference as far as practical versus CGI? Do you think that that eventually we'll see a phase out of practical effects, or do you think that things are just advancing so much that based on cost and other factors we'll probably be able to make a move towards solely CGI?
I mean, it's already happened, so it's going to continue in the future. There's still a lot of room left for physical effects. But a lot of other films are more and more CGI. and like the directors you named, you have the director Cameron, who did Avatar, almost all visual effects, and then you have Christopher Nolan, who insists everything be shot practically, whether it's going to work or not, or they're going to cover it up in post, but he wants it all to be real. So you have two directors there that are directly opposed. I don't know how it went on the interview, but I mean, of course, Interstellar, it's a space movie. Some things can't be done, but he has his own effects team that he loves, mechanical effects or special effects team that he loves, and they do a great job for him. And Cameron does the same. He's much more into the tech and the visual effects, and his movies reflect that.
Well, just a final question here. How would you tell some future special effects artists and people who wanted to get into the career, what would your approach be for the modern day rookie?
Well, they're getting into my field, which is the mechanical effects. They just need a broad background in all the trades, because we still build. You get a script and you read it. Whatever's in that script, no one tells you how to make it. No one tells you how to build it. No one gives you any ideas. So you have to take the written word and turn it into a physical effect or a physical thing. And so anybody who wants to get into my field needs to have a broad background in just about every kind of trade, carpentry, machining, welding, anything that you can possibly come up with, how to operate the newest machinery, the CNC machines, because we still build an awful lot. We still do our rain, smoke, fire, snow, which is our original basis, how we got formed as a group called Special Effects years ago. But we also build the giant gimbals that the visual effects guys use to put into a CG ocean, because you still have to have a real thing for them to stand on, and they have to be able to react and move and slide, and the water still has to go across the deck the right way, so you really have to tilt the boat. So we're always going to have some of that. Well, not always. Eventually, they're going to have everything will be digitized, as I'm being told by every futuristic scientist on the planet, that once they get enough memory capacity and enough storage of things, they'll be able to do the actors as well. So it's a changing industry. Mine's changing a little faster than most, but we're good for a while.
Well, I have to say, it's been a pleasure talking to you. You're a credit to your craft. A lot of people need to realize what actually goes into these films. Deepwater Horizon, the effects were absolutely stunning, and like I said, the balance was perfect. So thank you for all that you do, Burt, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And remember, behind me, I had up to 90 guys, and behind visual effects, they have thousands. So only a few people's names get mentioned, but there are many, 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 many people who work incredible hours under incredible conditions to make these movies come true.
That's so true, and thank you so much for your commentary on that. That's really humbling to hear that you include all of those people as well. So thank you so much.
Wouldn't happen without them.
All right, thank you, Burt.
Thank you.